So essentially what I'm doing is I'm using the petals to lift threads in alternating order to create what's called a shed. It's this gap here.
Okay.
And then you switch petals and it opens the thread in the shed with every alternating thread. Now the reed that I have is too small for this weight of yarn, but this is actually historically accurate because they would have only had one reed. They were expensive to produce, they were hard to maintain, so they typically would have only had one. And if the thread that they were using just happened to be a little bit too heavy, they'd have just made do with a beater and their hands. So, and essentially what I'm doing is I'm just using my fingers to open up the shed so I can slide the shuttle through. Make sure my thread is even so that my edges are nice and neat. Beat it down, swap, and do it again. And you do this about 8,000 times.
To make one garment 8,000 passes. Oh my gosh.
It's about 8,000 for something about, let's see, I've got 15 yards on here. I think I did the math once, and it comes out to, I think, 8,126.
Jiminy Christmas.
I got curious. I wanted to know how many times it would take.
Wool?
Yes, this is wool.
Okay.
I'm not sure what variety of wool it is. And it's gotten a little bit dried out in the summer air, so when I finish weaving this, I'm going to have to soak it in some water laced with lanolin to get some of the oils back into it so that it's nice and soft for wearing. That's the thing that most people don't realize, is that wool garments are actually very comfortable when they're made correctly. Most modern manufacturers do not make them correctly because they're trying to make them quickly and cheaply. So they're using the cheapest wool they can find, they're over-processing it because the natural oils and lanolins will gum up their machines, and then they don't actually rehydrate the fibers, so you get all these little loose threads and loose fibers rubbing on your skin, which is what causes the irritation that most people feel from wool, and they think that they can't wear wool because of that.
So they have to rehydrate it, otherwise they'll scratch the fool out of you like mine usually does. Okay.
Yep.
Now I
The easiest way
understand.
I've found to make your wool garments bearable again is just take some good quality hair conditioner
Okay.
and use 2 parts hair conditioner to 3 parts water. So say 3 cups of water and 2 cups of hair conditioner in a sink. Cold water. Hot water is bad for wool.
Okay.
Makes it shrink up.
I was gonna say shrinks it, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yep, makes it shrink up. And then you let it soak for a couple of hours so that that conditioner gets, penetrates all the fibers really, really nicely. Rinse it in nice, cold, fresh water, and then lay it flat to dry. And you will have a garment that is so much more comfortable to wear.
Wow.
When I take this off the loom, I'll be doing the exact same thing.
Okay.
Except I'll be using a lanolin conditioner that I make, which is actually made with the lanolin that I took off this wool when I was processing it for spinning. I saved it. Saved it in a jar.
That's a great idea.
And my husband's like, why do we have a jar of, something that smells like sheep? Because I saved the lanolin. I'm gonna need it later. And they would have done that too. They would have saved all the lanolin so that they could use it for hand creams or for rehydrating wool or for soaps. Lanolin had a number of uses, up to and including protecting gun barrels. Soldiers would take rags soaked in lanolin and rub down their gun barrels to keep them from rusting.
That makes good sense.
it was cheaper than using lamp oil, which was another option for protecting your gun barrels. But lamp oil was expensive, and they preferred to use it for lamps. Whereas lanolin was cheap, plentiful, and every spinner in the village would have had some.
So now what you're doing here, is that just separating the threads out so it'll go together better? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, when if you don't separate the shed, so I've got both heddle bars even.
Okay.
It's flat. There's no way to get it all through, right?
Gotcha.
I would have to individually weave every single thread, and there's 350 threads here.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it would take a while.
Wow.
However, if I do this, and I raise a heddle, and then pull this forward a little bit, I can open up my shed, and you see now there's a gap where my shuttle will fit through.
Gotcha.
So instead of having to go under, over every single thread,
one pass.
These are doing the work for me. Those are called heddle bars, and the threads here are called heddles, and I can actually show you how they work. So if you look at this, it's looped on the thread, but it also has a little hole right there, a little gap.
Okay.
That's what the warp thread passes through.
Okay.
And you alternate when you thread the loom. You got heddle bar 1, heddle bar 2, and you just alternate back and forth.
Wow.
And then you pull it all through the reed, and what the reed does is it keeps everything neatly lined up, because these will move.
Okay.
They'll shift back and forth a little bit, they'll wiggle a little bit. The reed helps keep everything lined up nice and neat.
Gotcha, okay.
As with most high-end handcrafts, precision is your friend. It will make, you want to be neat and precise so that the final product looks as intended.
And you only have to do that 8,100 times to get a garment.
Yes.
That's incredible.
And that's just for the 15 yards that I'm doing.
15 yards.
Yep.
Wow.
If I were doing more, of course, there would be more passes. But it also, with the, if I were doing thicker yarn for the weft, it would be less passes, even for the same amount of warp yardage.
Gotcha.
So if I had a thicker yarn than this, I might only have to do like 6,000 passes.
Gotcha.
But if I had something thinner than this, it would be 10,000 passes,
Oh my gosh. Well, I appreciate you showing this to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about this stuff. I've been doing this since I was 10 years old.
Wow.
I am a third generation.
You're an expert.
Yes, I'm a third generation weaver, second generation spinner.
Wow.
The women in my family have been doing this for a long time.
That's fantastic.